Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. All right, apostate congregation, welcome again to another edition. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So we are continuing our series on William Morgan's book, Illustrations of Masonry. We are continuing. We left off on the last episode on page 38. Okay, today's date is December 22nd, 2025, and this is going to be episode 8, chapter 6. Okay, so I got to keep track of these here. Thank you, congregation, for following along with the episodes and reading William Morgan's book and doing Mormon commentary along with it. So thank you, congregation, for subscribing and following along and all that kind of stuff. So we are continuing on page 38. So on the last episode, we ended with the question and answer series, right? We ended the last episode with explaining the explanation of the 24-inch gauge as an instrument made use of by operative Masons. Okay, so that's a great way to start this episode. For newcomers coming along, just joining the series, operative Masonry is Masonry of old, right? The Templar Masonry. Templar Masonry is dead, as they are explaining in these books that we're talking about. So in the 1800s, in the late 1700s and the early 1800s, they started to recreate this new thing called speculative Freemasonry. And speculative Freemasonry is the Masonry of new. And that Masonry is a religious institution of Masonry. It's a religious institution, and they call it the Church of Masonry. So we read these anti-Masonic books, right? Solomon Southwick, David Bernard, William Morgan, and we correlate these to the anti-Mormon books. Because in the anti-Mormon literature, in the 1800s, contemporary to the day of Joseph Smith, these books are all over those books. And that's what this channel is about, is taking the Freemasonry, the Psalmonic magic, and Mormonism and combining them together through the historical lens of the authors. Right? This is not opinion. This is what these authors are saying. Okay, and so that's what this channel is about, is we bring these authors to life. Okay, so just to catch up, well, that is the catch up. All right, so here we go. Let's get into this. All right, so we are continuing on page 38. All right. And what I read to you on the last episode, how we ended, was the question. What were you next presented with? Answer, a new name. What was that? Answer, caution. What does it teach? Answer. That's where we stopped at. Okay, so now we're going to continue. Drink my mason jar of water. So now we're going to continue. This is where we left off, so let's keep going. Answer. It teaches me, as I was barely instructed, in the rudiments of Masonry, but that I should be cautious over all my words and actions. Right? Words are so prevalent. See, it's being taught from, from the entered apprentice level, right? Especially when before its enemies. What were you next presented with? Answer, 3 precious jewels. Okay, one of the commenters on one of the other videos was commented about the jewels, right? Answer, 3 precious jewels. What are they? Answer, a listening ear, a silent tongue, and a faithful heart. These are the precious jewels in Freemasonry, okay, that everybody's looking for. What do they teach? A listening ear teaches me to listen to instructions of the worshipful master, but more especially that I should listen to the calls and cries of a worthy distressed brother, right? So, I've been saying to you from day one on this channel, for those with ears to hear, right? A silent tongue teaches me to be silent in the lodge. Reverence. That's my word I put in there, reverence. That the peace and harmony thereof may not be disturbed, but more especially that I should be silent when before the enemies of Masonry. A faithful heart, this is the 3rd jewel, a faithful heart, that I should be faithful to the instructions of the worshipful master at all times. But more especially that I should be faithful and keep and conceal the secrets of Masonry. What is the in every Sunday, what is in every conference, the general conferences, what do they repeat over and over and over? Faith, 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 right? Well, apostate congregation, what is the dictionary definition of the word faith? To believe in something without evidence. So what is blind faith? To blindly believe in something without evidence, okay? You must have faith, faith, faith. And remember, we are talking about speculative Freemasonry. So the master, the Grand Master in the 1800s is what we today call the prophet. Do you understand that? Okay. This is in the 1800s. This is 1800s Masonry, 1700s. Okay. They're just creating this. Okay. And those of a brother, when given to me in charge as such, that they remain a secure and inviolable in my breast, as in my own, before communicated to me. What were you next presented with? Answer, check words, 2. What were they? Truth and union. Remember, apostates, you guys have been writing this stuff down, so you're following, right? These words, you got to keep track of these words because they're going to repeat over and over again. And when we get to the names, right, we haven't even, I don't think there's really, yeah. So we're going to get heavy into some magic. Okay. So it's important that you guys keep track of this stuff. So as you follow along, right? I mean, we're going to get into Hiram Abif. We're going to get into all this. So the Testaments of Solomon, I keep telling you guys, you got to know this stuff. Okay. Okay. Answer: truth and union. How explained? Okay. Truth and union are the check words. Okay. So when you give the sign, right, the thumbnail, you also ask for the check words, okay, which is truth and union. Truth is a divine attribute and the foundation of every virtue. To be good and true are the first lessons we are taught in Masonry, speculative Masonry. On this theme, we contemplate and by its dictates endeavors to regulate our conduct. Hence, while influenced by this principle, hypocrisy and deceit are unknown amongst us. Right? We remember when we opened the lodge, right? The entered apprentice, right? When we opened the lodge, we did this same stuff right here, right? Okay. In a different way, though. This is now he's summarizing it, right? In the end, so we all understand. So he's writing this for the reader. You remember in the last episode, right? Sincerity and plain dealing distinguishes us, right? I mean, how much more can you like describe a Mormon, right? And heart and tongue join in promoting each other's welfare and rejoicing in each other's prosperity. Union, right? The second word, check word. Union is that kind of friendship that ought to appear conspicuous in the conduct of every Mason. It is so clearly allied to the divine attribute, truth, that he who enjoys, right? So remember, the divine attribute, right, is also called truth, okay? Truth is one of the check words. That he who enjoys the one is seldom destitute of the other. Should interest, honor, prejudice, or human depravity ever influence you to violate any part of the sacred trust we now repose in you, let these two important words, at the earliest insinuation, teach you to put on the check line of truth, which will infallibly direct you to pursue the straight and narrow path, which ends in the full enjoyment of the grand lodge above, right? So everything you do is legit for the prosperity of the lodge, right? That's, how is Mormonism, right? Everything you do in Mormonism is for the appearance of the church, right? You have to represent you're a spokesman in a way for the church, right? Where we shall all meet as Masons and members of one family, where all discord on account of religion, politics, or private opinions shall be unknown and banished from within our walls. What followed? Answer: the worshipful master in the East made a demand of me something of a metallic kind, which he said was not so much on account of its intrinsic value as that it might be deposited in the archives of the lodge as a memorial that I had therein been made a Mason. How did the worshipful master then dispose of you? He ordered me to be conducted out of the lodge and vested of what I had been divested, and returned for further instructions. Page 40. After you returned, how were you disposed of? Answer: I was conducted to the northeast corner of the lodge, and there caused to stand upright like a man, my feet forming a square, and received a solemn injunction, ever to walk and act uprightly before God and man. And in addition thereto, received the following charge. For this charge, it says, see page 27. So you'll have to go back, and we've already read this, so your pencils and papers. Let's see how long it is. Yeah. No, that's a long, that's like a 2-page thing there. So yeah, you'll have to go back to page 27. It says, see page 27. And it's like, no kidding, 2 pages. It's two pages long. So 2 pages for an hour-long video takes quite a long time, apostate. So I'm going to refer you back to page 27. Or you can go back to the video wherever we're at, page 27. I tell you which page we're on in each video. So, all right, let's continue. Now, this is where I was telling you about how the chapters, there's no chapters in this book, right? There's sections. So this is going to be section 2, and it's called second section, all right? My mason jar of water. Okay, apostates, let's go with second section. What's our time? All right. Second section. Why was you divested of all metals when you was made a Mason? Answer: because Masonry regards no man on account of his worldly wealth or honors. It is, therefore, the internal and not the external qualifications that recommend a man to Masonry, right? Your allegiance is to the lodge. In Mormonism, your allegiance is to the church. A second reason: answer: there was neither the sound of an axe, hammer, or any other metal tool at the building of King Solomon's temple. You have to know the story of Solomon, apostate congregation. How could so stupendous a fabric be erected without the sound of axe, hammer, or any other metal tool? Answer: all the stones were hewed, squared, and numbered in the quarries where they were raised, all the timbers felled and prepared in the forest of Lebanon, and carried down to Joppa, Joppa, on floats, and taken from thence up to Jerusalem, and set up with wooden mauls, mauls, prepared for that purpose, which which when completed, every part thereof fitted with the exact nicety, that it had more the resemblance of the handworkmanship of the supreme architect of the universe than that of human hands. Okay, think of Nephi's. Think of as they crossed the ocean, right? The submarine, right? Okay, in Ether, right? It's in the book of Ether, right? When they cross the ocean. Why was you neither naked nor clothed? Answer: as I was an object of distress at the time, it was to remind me, if ever I saw a friend, more especially a brother, in a like distress situation, that I should contribute as liberally to his relief as his situation required, and my abilities would admit without material injury to myself or family. Why were you neither barefoot nor shod? Shod is shod. Answer: it was an ancient Israelitish, that's legit what it says, Israelitish custom adopted among Masons. Right? Okay, let me read that again. This whole thing right here, okay, second edition. Okay, I really want you to pay attention to it, because we're going to get like into the Mormon story now, right? Like allegorically speaking, right? Like this stuff is Masonic, right? It's hidden in plain sight. So there's things that you are going to catch, apostate congregation, that I just read right over and don't even, because I've already like watched a couple of the videos in this series. And just by listening to the videos, I'm like, dude, how did I not see that? Because my senses are different, right? I'm reading it versus listening to it, right? And so, I'm catching stuff as I watch the videos even. Okay, let's keep going. Why were you neither barefoot nor shod? Answer: it was an ancient Israelitish custom adopted among Masons, speculative Freemasons. And we read in the book of Ruth, right? So now here we go with the scripture. You got to, like, this stuff is all connected, apostate congregation. This is some homework, deep dive stuff, okay? I really hope you guys appreciate this stuff. If you do, like and subscribe to the channel, like the videos, like all this stuff, right? Because nobody has ever told you nobody has ever read you this book. Nobody's nothing, right? So you have to understand the Bible, right? Look, apostate congregation, do you think it's by accident that I have the Bible? I've had a Bible my entire freaking life, man. I've had a Book of Mormon a good portion of my life, right? So I don't want to hear any of you atheists out there or anything. Nobody knows the Bible better than an atheist. Okay? So come on, man. Let's get going with this stuff. You have to know the grimoires. King Solomon's all over in the Bible. Come on. This stuff all goes together. The Greek magical papyri, okay? What is this book right here? What is Solomonic magic? It's the Christianized version of the Greek magical papyri. Okay? This stuff is all connected. You have to follow these lines, congregation. And once you understand this historical, like this is legit history. This is not my opinion. This is not me making anything up. I'm not making this up. This is legit history. So you can follow this lineage, right? And once you follow this lineage, you will very clearly understand religion as a whole. I could give you this exact presentation by reading the Bible, by reading the Book of Mormon. I could do the exact same thing. And it all pertains to this book right here. These two. It all goes back to these. All roads lead to these books. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care what kind of magic you call it. I don't care. They all go back to this. The OG, King Solomon. And then if you go back even further to the Greek magical papyri, you're getting into like Medea and the first Christ. Things of this sort, right? You know, this Joseph Smith didn't create anything. I say that over and over and over. Okay, let's keep going, apostates. Okay, in the book of Ruth, concerning their mode of manner of changing and redeeming. Okay, you read the book of Ruth, okay? One thing I will say about the book of Ruth, apostate congregation, knowing what we know of Xerxes, okay, historically speaking, knowing what we know about Xerxes and who Xerxes was, do you think that would ever happen? Do you think what takes place in the book of Ruth would legit ever happen? I mean, think about that. After you read the book of Ruth and think about her, I think it's her, is it her servant? I think it's her servant. I can't remember. But anyways, my question to you after you read the book of Ruth and taking into consideration what we know historically about Xerxes, do you think that scenario would ever possibly take place? So that's my challenge to you, apostate congregation. So that is how I'm going to know if you read the book of Ruth. Okay, let's keep going. And to conform all things, a brother plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And that was the testimony in Israel. This then, therefore, we do in confirmation of a token and as a pledge of our fidelity, thereby signifying that we will renounce our own wills in all things. Okay, so you're giving up your life, you're giving up your allegiance, right? You're giving your allegiance to the lodge, right? That's what Mormonism is you're giving your allegiance to the lodge, right? To the church. Pay your tithing. Have you lived by the words of wisdom? Are you doing this? All this stuff, right? Do you have your temple recommends, right? All of the questions that go along with all these phases, right? Your various callings, your women's clubs, your all this stuff, right? That we will renounce our own wills in all things and become obedient to the laws of our ancient institutions, right? Understand that. of the laws of our ancient institutions. Okay, he's talking about the Templars. Why were you hoodwinked? Remember what hoodwinked was, right? He has the cloth over his head. Why were you hoodwinked? That my heart might conceive. Why were you hoodwinked? Answer: that my heart might conceive before my eyes beheld the beauty of Masonry. A second reason. Answer: as I was in darkness at that time, it was to remind me that I should keep the whole world so respecting Masonry. Why had you a cable tow around your neck? Remember, the cable tow is the rope. Answer: in case I had not submitted to the manner and mode of my institution, that I might have been led out of the lodge without seeing the form of the beauties thereof. Right? He didn't appreciate it. Why did you give 3 distinct knocks at the door? Answer: to alarm the lodge and let the worshipful master, wardens, and brethren know that a poor blind candidate prayed admission. What does those 3 distinct knocks allude to? I mean, the 3 knocks are the 3 visions, right? I mean, correlate this to Mormonism, right? This is so Joseph Smith, like in the garden, right? Or in the grove, and he's got the visions, and he's, and then it also is the story of William Morgan as well, right? William Morgan died with the cable tow around his neck where the tide ebbs and flows, right? So it's not a literal death. His death is a description of what happens to you, right? It's does that make sense? Okay, so let's keep going. Why had you a cable tow around your neck? Answer: in case I had not submitted to the manner and mode of my institution, that I might have been led out of the lodge without seeing the form and beauties thereof. Why did you give 3 distinct knocks at the door? Answer: to alarm the lodge and let the worshipful master, wardens, and brethren know that a poor blind candidate prayed admission. Right? He prayed admission, right? A poor blind guy is out in the grove. What does those 3 distinct knocks allude to? Answer: a certain passage in Scripture wherein it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. Right? I told you in previous videos, everything in Masonry has a scripture quote. Everything does. That's why I kept telling you guys, you got to read the Bible. You got to know this stuff, right? Wherein it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. How did you apply this to your then case in Masonry? Answer: I asked the recommendations of a friend to become a Mason, the missionary, right? The apprentice, right? I sought admission through his recommendations and knocked, and the door of Masonry opened unto me. Remember, the door was half open, right? Why was you caused to enter on the point of some sharp instrument, passing your naked left breast, in the name of the Lord? Answer: As this was a torture to my flesh, so might the recollection of it ever be to my heart and conscience. If ever I attempt to reveal the secrets of Masonry unlawfully, why was you conducted to the center of the lodge and there caused to kneel for the benefit of a prayer? Answer: before entering on this or any other great and important undertaking, it is highly necessary to improve a blessing from deity. Why was you asked in whom you put your trust? Answer: agreeable to the laws of our ancient institution. No atheist could be a Mason. That's legit what it says. No atheist could be a Mason. It was therefore necessary that I should believe in deity. Otherwise, no oath or obligation could bind me. You have to believe in a deity of some kind. That is the only way you can be bound, is by your religion, because they know that your faith you'll do anything for. You will kill your own mother for your religion. If God tells you to do it, or if the demons are talking to you, you know what I'm saying? So atheists are like, nah, man, like we don't believe in this stuff, right? Like your obligations and your oaths are BS. Okay? So no atheist could be made a Mason. It was therefore necessary that I should believe in deity. Otherwise, no oath or obligation could bind me. Do you understand? That right there is why this is bad. That is one of the number one arguments throughout the entire anti-Masonic movement, is these people are using people's faith and their religion to destroy themselves and their families. What does Mormonism do? It uses people's faith to destroy themselves and their families, right? Why did the worshipful master take you by the right hand and bid you arise? Follow your leader and fear no danger? Answer: as I was in darkness at the time and could neither foresee nor avoid danger. It was to remind me that I was in the hands of an affectionate friend in whose fidelity I might with safety confide. Right? I mean, think of this, keep your Mormon hats on. Why was you conducted 3 times regularly round the lodge? Answer: that the worshipful master, wardens, and brethren might see that I was duly and truly prepared. Why did you meet with those several obstructions on the way? Answer: this and every lodge is, or ought to be, a true representation of King Solomon's temple. Apostate congregation, which when completed had guards stationed at the east, the west, and south gates. Okay, think of the holiness to the Lord parchment paper. Okay, you have a guard at the east, the west, and the south. The north is left open. Okay, so you have, you know, a 3-sided square, right? This stuff has meaning, apostate congregation. Okay, Why had they guards stationed at those several gates? Answer: to prevent anyone from passing or repassing that was not duly qualified. The same thing is in magic. The same exact thing is in magic, right? This is what's on those lamens, right? The layman in the Joseph Smith lamens, right? The parchment papers. Look at that, the holiness to the Lord one. You'll see this. But it's in pictograph form though. Okay, this is Masonic. You have to think about this stuff, okay? It's in a pictograph, and the same exact thing is in magic. Okay? So think of it like that, and then go to the grimoire, go to the Keys of Solomon. Don't go to any of this other bullshit stuff. Keys of Solomon. And it explains that to you. To prevent anyone from passing or repassing that was not duly qualified. Why did you kneel at the left knee and not on your right or both? Answer: the left side has ever been considered the weakest part of the body. It was therefore to remind me that the part I was then taken upon me was the weakest part of Masonry. Right? So Masonry is only as strong as the weakest link. The church is only as strong as the weakest link. So as far as this particular ceremony goes, I want all of you to give me feedback as to, is this a temple ceremony? Do you go through this in the temple? Because I have never been through the temple. Yeah, I know that I know for a fact that in the old 1830s and 1840s literature, this is very much in all of those books. So I'm curious as to today, how it is today, right? So that's my curiosity. All right, the left side is the weakest side. Why was your okay? When I was taken, when I was then taken upon me, when then was taken upon me was the weakest part of Masonry. It being that only of an entered apprentice. Why was your right hand placed on the Holy Bible, square and compass, and not your left or both? Answer: the right hand has ever been considered the seat of fidelity, and our ancient brethren worshiped deity under the name of Fidus. Keep track of that name. It's going to come up later a lot. Okay, Fidus. Find out who that is. Research Fidus, which was sometimes been represented by two apostates. It's on page 43. The wording is smudged out right there. So I can't read it. It's right there at the top of the page, right there. That wording is smudged out. So if you guys can pause that, zoom in, decipher that, read that, whatever that says. You got to remember, this book was written in 1827, okay? So represented by two something joined together. Represented by two, I don't know, something joined together. All right, let's keep going. That's on page 43. What's our time? All right, we can probably finish this section. At others by two human figures. Fuck, I wish those were there. Represented by two something something joined together, at others by two human figures holding each other by the right hand. That makes me think of a lot of statues. All right, so right hand. Therefore, we use in this great and important undertaking to signify in the strongest manner possible the sincerity of our intentions. In magic, you have to have intentions. Your intentions have to be true. Okay, that's so important in ceremonial magic. Okay. Sincerity of our intentions in the business we are engaged. Why did the worshipful master present you with a lambskin or white apron? Answer: the lambskin has in all ages been deemed an emblem of innocence. He, therefore, who wears the lambskin as a badge of a Mason is thereby continually reminded of that purity of life and rectitude of conduct, which is so essentially necessary to our gaining admission into the celestial lodge. Into the celestial lodge above, where the supreme architect of the universe presides. Pay attention to these words. Why did the master make a demand of you of something of a metallic nature? Answer: as I was in a poor and penniless situation at the time, it was to remind me, if ever I saw a friend, but more especially a brother, in the like poor and penniless situation, that I should contribute as liberally to his relief as my abilities would admit and his situation required, without injuring myself or family. Why was you conducted to the northeast corner of the lodge, and there caused to stand upright like a man, your feet forming a square, receiving at the same time a solemn charge, ever to walk and act upright before God and man? Answer: the first stone in every Masonic edifice is or ought to be placed at the northeast corner, that being the place where an entered apprentice Mason receives his first instructions to build his future Masonic edifice upon. Think of the temples. Okay. Okay, what's our time? That is our time. We are going to stop there, apostates. We're going to cut this one early. This is the end of the second section. Okay, so now we are going to hit up the third section. Okay, that's where we're going to pick up on the next video, is the third section. Okay, so apostates, yeah, read up on the Book of Ruth. Okay, that's what we learned in this episode. And, we closed the lodge. We hit the second section, right? So in the third section, William Morgan writes, so this is where we're going to pick up on next episode. We have been saying a good deal about a lodge. I want to know what constitutes a lodge. There you go. That's where we're going to pick up. So, and this really starts from here. this really starts getting deep, congregation. Okay. We start getting into some real heavy Masonic words. We start getting a lot into the craft, the architect. Like this, from here on out, we start getting real heavy. Okay. So I know it's already been pretty heavy. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of similarities already in Mormonism, right, to this. So like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, Apostate Congregation. I do thank you for following along with this series. This is something totally new for me, so I've never done this before. And to be quite honest with you, it's a lot. I did not expect it to be this much. So yeah, I didn't expect it to be this much because there's not that many pages in this book. And so I can't even imagine Bernard's book. That's 500 pages long, man. This one's only 100. So we're what, eight episodes in, and we're at 100 page. We're only on page 43 at 8 episodes in. Imagine a 538 page book, right? I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't think I would have it in me, Apostate Congregation, to do that. I'm really second guessing Southwick's book, because Southwick's book is like 10 pages longer than this book, right? And I'm like, oh no. Okay, Apostate Congregation, thank you. Like and subscribe to the channel. We are not monetized. We will never be monetized. The only way to help this channel, support this channel, is to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and and remember, in the words of the late great Solomon Southwick, the ashes of Morgan will rise again. And here we are, Apostate Congregation. The ashes of Morgan have risen. So thank you. It's time to jump off the time machine. And we will see you on the other side.